Hi everyone, it's Yvette Blowitz from SpiritGirl.com and welcome to the Spirit Girl Talk Show podcast. I'm super excited to be here with you today in this online audio space and with our very special guest, and her name is Dr. Hannah Korrel, and she is a neuropsychologist and the author of How to Break Up with Friends, From Friend Shit to Friend Split, a guide to ditching crappy companions. Hello, Hannah.
Hi, Yvette. Thank you so much for having me on. Hi, everyone.
This is so exciting. I picked up your book actually on Sunday from Big W here in Australia. And I thought this is divine timing, this book, because so many of us struggle with friendships, whether that be online, in real life, like day to day. And this is a discussion that we have to dive more into. And I'm super grateful to share you and your book. But before we get started, for everyone who's tuning in, to our listeners, can you tell them a little bit about yourself and what actually is a neuropsychologist?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Yvette. I really appreciate you having me on. It's so exciting to be here. So I'm a Sydney girl. I was born in Canberra, but I moved around a lot for my uni. So I studied neuropsychology, which is a type of specialization where we look at how the brain works. So we look at all the different parts of your brain and we learn to test them with pen and paper tests, like IQ testing, to figure out what part of your brain works and what part of your brain might not be working so well. So the types of things I do are diagnosing dementia, diagnosing autism, ADHD, brain injuries, any kind of damage to the brain that results in a change in your thinking and your memory issues. So it's kind of bringing together psychology, which is all about, personality and how we act as people in this environment that we live in, and also your brain and how the neuroscience of your brain and your personality go together to make us do all the weird and wonderful things that we do.
That is fascinating. So what really inspired you to want to dive in and learn about the brain function and how it actually works and all of that, though? Like, did this start as a young child, or was this just in your teenager years you thought, wow, this is fascinating and I want to learn this? Like, how did you start the inspiration side of it?
I think when I was growing up, I was always very interested in people and relationships. My parents used to joke that there's 5 kids in my family. So my parents used to joke that I was the psychologist of the family. So I was always very interested in interactions. And then when I got to uni, I enrolled in psychology and I was really good. I was just good at it. One of my lecturers actually read a passage out of Oliver Sacks's book, The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat, which is all about the weird and wacky things our brain does when one part of it doesn't work. And that just sparked this crazy passion that I developed for brain science and neuroscience. So I loved it so much that I just went on to do a PhD in neurology masters. And I think I'm a nerd. I don't know, Yvette. I think I must be a massive, massive nerd because I cannot get enough of not just the science of, I don't want to know just the theory of why we interact in the way that we interact with psychology, but I want to know, what does the brain actually do, and why does my brain send me into fight and flight mode, and what does that mean on a neurotransmitter level, and what does that mean for my body? I want to know the hard science of what happens to my body when these psychological processes occur. And it just, I don't know, it went from there, and I just can't stop. I don't know, I can't stop learning about it. I love it.
your passion. Like, you're just lighting up. You're so excited. And you are not a nerd. I am so fascinated with neuroscience, and I can't get enough of it. I'm just so fascinated. I listen to a lot of other podcast shows, and they'll have neuroscientists on from the US. So it's so amazing you're here in Australia and we can have this discussion, because I just find it so fascinating, the mind, the brain, because I've got this my big thing is, when it comes to even mental health, I feel like it should just be brain health, because when we start having the conversation about the brain, it gets rid of all the stigmas. If it was like a brain ward and someone was critically ill because their brain wasn't functioning, whether that be depression or whatever that brain functioning be, I feel that there would be so much more dignity. The stigma would be gone. And my vision one day is, imagine someone has to go to the brain ward, and then they had, your psychologist, your neuroscientist, your psychiatrist, but, like this very cohesive collective, all working together. And I feel that more people, whether that be men or children or women, would be like more comfortable when, talking about their illness. They would bring so much dignity. So that's one of my passions, and that's why I love having you on the show. The day I get to see, like, I've already worked out, I can get rid of mental health stigma as soon as people discover it's the brain not working, and that then affects the thinking and the emotions and the feeling. I feel like that's going to unlock so much potential. So would you agree on that, Hannah? Like, I'm talking big picture here. I know we can't change it today on the podcast show, but even having this discussion about focusing on the brain versus just the thought or just your mind, like, there's such a more in play, isn't there?
Well, you've hit the nail on the head, Yvette, with like this stuff. People don't consider mental health to be as legitimate as a physical illness, which is why, we don't tell somebody with a broken arm to snap out of it and to get over it. We tell people, take time, don't lift too heavy weights, put it in a cast. But when it comes to emotional issues, people it's hugely stigmatized, and it's gotten a little bit better lately. Like, we have things like Are You Okay Day now, and we're starting to get a little bit better, but there's still a huge degree of stigmatization when it comes to mental health. But I love what you said, changing it to brain health, because even the word mental, got
it's like you're mental, because I remember being a kid.
What people don't appreciate is
I remember that being a kid, and people would say, oh, they're mental, they're crazy. Like, and like, when I was a young kid growing past, we'd go past, it was called Ward 10B, and it was where people had lost their mind, and they're like, they're mental, they're crazy, they're in the loony house, the loony bin. And I think that's why it's really, even I'm in my 40s, and I think that's why growing up with hearing that, like, it still stays with you. And I still believe generationally it gets passed down, even though we are breaking it. But I just feel that, Hannah, the day I get to see this brain wards, brain health, and this switch, it's going to be incredible. It's going to be incredible. So that's our mission. But Hannah, getting back to your book now, what inspired you to write this book? Because you've gone to so much effort, and I love it. But what inspired you to write this book? How did this all come about?
Okay, so there's two answers I give. There's the science answer, and then there's the real answer. So I'll give you both. So obviously I'm a neuropsychologist and I love relationships and I love the science of relationships. And I think, you know, with some self-help books, there's a lot out there, and a lot of them often lack maybe the science behind where they're getting those theories from and what's actually going on in the brain and what are the systems that cause us to do the things we do. So the book is kind of really heavy on giving you the science in a fun and digestible way. It's like actually honoring your intelligence by saying, you know, we have fight or flight, but that's actually because of the vagus nerve, and that affects your sympathetic nervous system, which equals XYZ, like really explaining it in detail so that, you know, because you're clever, like you can read those things and understand them, and you should be told those things. Like, what is the current best evidence for why we are experiencing what we're experiencing? So that's answer number one. Answer number two is that I just, to be real with you, Yvette, I lived it. I experienced it. I went through my 20s. So I'm 32 now. And I went through my 20s, and I just was the kind of person who would give and give and give, and bend over backwards for my friends. Like, I was just, you know, I came to those relationships with so much love in my heart and so much energy in my heart, and wanted to these people who I just loved so much. And as I got older, I kind of realized, you know, some of these people weren't very good for me, and that they were kind of mean to me, actually. And I kept them in my life for a really long time because I was afraid of having no friends. And I was afraid that, oh, if I get rid of this girlfriend, if I get rid of that girlfriend, then I'll barely have any friends left. Or, you know, I just didn't want to, or I thought, you know, maybe I'm just too sensitive, or maybe I'm just a people pleaser, or maybe I'm just not cool enough or likable enough. So I just kept making excuses for all these people. And I kind of just kept giving them opportunities to demonstrate that they would treat me better. And when I got to 30, I'd had a whole bunch of stuff happen. Like, I broke up with my boyfriend of 5 years, and I moved interstate, and I turned 30, and I had my existential crisis. And I kind of looked around, and all of these people who I had really given to and been there for and just given my all to, like, they just were nowhere to be seen. And I think when you have those milestone birthdays, you often take stock and you reassess, you know, where am I putting my energy? Where am I putting my effort? And, you know, I had this kind of like this moment of realization where I kind of realized I'm not placing very much worth on myself to be keeping these people in my life. And I had like this really, you know, seminal moment where a friend did a really particularly full-on thing to me. And so I sent her a breakup message. And thereafter, it was like this awakening. It was this awakening. And I sort of, you know, we're talking about spirituality before we started the podcast, but I seriously do believe I just started writing. And it was like I was writing to myself. I was writing what I needed to hear. And I just kept writing and writing and writing. And before I knew it, like, this book had come out of me, and everyone I'd spoken to, my sisters and my other friends, were all telling me they'd experienced the same thing in their friendships where they'd been really let down. And it just kind of happened, like, so organically. Before I knew it, I had this book and it was getting published, and all these people are sending me DMs now to say, oh my God, this is happening to me too. So it's just kind of manifested.
This is so exciting. Like, I feel like, because you've lived it, and then, but I love part one. I love how you are educating us in the brain, because that's the part I feel we need to learn more of, so we just understand. And we've, up until now, not been exposed to this very much in Australian society, unless you're listening to a lot of podcast shows with neuroscientists and things, which I love. But then also, isn't it interesting? It's like in those moments of time where you need your friends the most, who are they? Where are they? I always say that it's in time of need you will determine who your true friends are and who are not. And I love that you've written this book, because this goes deep into what so many of us struggle with in so many aspects of our lives. Like we fall into, say, going to school, we meet these people, or we work with these people, and then we start these relationships, and then we just continue them just because we do. So I just wonder, Hannah, with these relationships, here's an example what I've experienced. Okay, I want to get fit. One of the things I've learned, if you want to get fit, and in my experience, you need to hang around with people who are into fitness, who want to go running with you, who want to take you to the gym, who want to meet up with a yoga class, who are into fitness. So throughout my career or life, I wanted to get fit, but then the person I'm hanging around with is full on into partying, drinking. Oh, come over, let's do dinner, let's do wine. Totally polar opposite to what I want to become. So I've had to learn to break up with these people, which is not easy, because these people then are like, what's wrong with you? Like, what's up with you? And they can be obsessive, over the top, like really don't understand that you're on different paths. So what would you suggest? What are some things we should look for in a healthy relationship, like a friendship? What do we even class as healthy these days?
Yeah.
And what are some healthy things to look for? Should we be like-minded? Like, if I like exercising, I should really be surrounding myself with people who are into what I want to become, like exercising and healthy, because they'll be a positive influence on me and help me along the way, versus someone who is just drinking all the time. What are your thoughts here, Hannah?
That's such a good question, Yvette. I think there's almost like a two-parter to that answer.
Yes.
I'd say, you know, as we age, it's perfectly normal for us to go through different cycles in our lives. So we might have cycles where we become parents, when we get married, when we change into different jobs, when we go through uni, when we, say, go through a really massive spiritual change or health change. And it's normal for you to gravitate in and out of certain friendship groups depending on what you're going through right now. So when you're a parent for the first time, you're probably going to form closer relationships with other parents, for example, and you might move away from your, say, partying uni days friends. And that's pretty normal. That's actually a healthy part of any transition through those life periods. And the literature is saying to us that that's actually pretty healthy and normal for you. I think the other part of the question is, you know, what makes a good friend? We can be friends with people who have different ways of life to us. So, you know, a parent who's having a child for the first time can still maintain their beautiful friendship with their uni friend. It's just, you know, it's just whether that friendship maintains critical elements of friendship. And I believe those critical elements, and I talk about this at length with case studies in the book, is trust. So do you trust this person with your confidence and with your secrets? It's affection. Do they like being around you? Do they enjoy your company? Or do they act more like a wet mop when they're around you? Do they support you? So do they support you in your life? You know, are they there for you? And do they support what you're doing with your life? And the last one, which I think is really important for what you just talked about, Yvette, is respect. Do they respect you? Do they respect your life choices? Do they respect what you do with money, what you do with your family? Somebody who doesn't fundamentally respect us as people, it's a sign that they feel that we're beneath them in some way, that maybe they think they're smarter than us, maybe they think they're hotter than us, fitter than us, more affluent than us, whatever it might be. So when we try to do things, they lack respect for our endeavors in life, and they may be passive aggressive about them. They may be unsupportive about them. They may even try to undermine them. So, kind of what you were speaking to before about, having a health kick and being more healthy in life, but then also having a friend who's kind of derailing you and constantly puts the pressure on you to stop doing the things that you are super important to you. That's kind of indicative of a person who's lacking respect for your boundaries. Because what you've done in the way is just, I'm not doing this anymore because this thing is important to me. And a good friend will be able to say, oh, yeah, no worries. I'll, no problem. I support you. And then they might forget and say, hey, do you want a wine? And you can say, oh, no, remember I said I'm not drinking. And then they go, oh, yeah, sorry. But if they keep going, have a wine, have a wine, have a wine. You're such a buzzkill because you won't have a wine. Well, that's not very respectful, is it? And they're actually encroaching your boundaries too.
I thank you for sharing that, because I feel in Australia we all have those people who pressure us to drink. And whenever I go on a health kick, I can really work out who are great people to be around and good souls, and like you say, respect what I'm doing, and who are not. And they're the ones who I'll say, look, I'm on a health kick. I'm not drinking. I'm like seriously detoxing and trying to get healthy in my mind, brain, overall health. And they'll be like, yeah, that's fine. And then you'll have the polar opposite, which will be like, you're right, have a drink. Oh, no, you're going to have a drink. I can't believe you're not having a drink. You're not having a drink. You need to have a drink. Have a drink. And I'm like, no, I'm not having a drink. So, yeah, I just love how you shared that, because I'm sure some of our listeners out there, you may have experienced wanting to go on a health kick to get healthy, maybe give up drinking, and maybe not all of your friends have thought that was a good idea because they're looking for someone to drink with. So, Hannah, the other thing that comes up all the time, which I too have experienced, is we all seem to have had a friend who maybe has had a bad relationship. Everything in their life has gone wrong, and they're the victim. They always whinge, complain. We as a friend will try and give them advice of how to fix things in their life, which I've learned isn't the best idea. And then it's sort of, they always come back. They're leaving him. Oh, no, he's amazing. I'm leaving him. Oh, no, he's amazing. I'm not.
Oh, my God, yes.
You're not leaving him. Oh, my God, you need to. Oh, he's amazing. Okay, and by the time you are so exhausted, so drained, you're like, I feel like I've been hit by a train, and they've just drained all the energy out of you. What I've learned, but I'd love to get your professional advice, is as a friend, I'm not qualified in neuropsychology, or I'm not a psychologist. I've been recommending people refer their friends who are going through so much drama and negativity and crap to see a professional psychologist. And the reason being, you're qualified in these areas. And we as family and friends, I'm sorry, aren't. So, but Hannah, what can we do when we have that friend who rings us to use us as a counselor?
Yeah.
And they're only us to whinge and offload and vent.
Yeah. I think that's such a beautiful question, Yvette. I think we've all kind of been there at some point or other in our lives with somebody. I think we can always have a little bit. I talk about this I talk about this exact scenario in the book with that friend who's constantly in a state of crisis, and they're a bit of an energy vampire. So they're kind of sucking you dry a little bit. And this kind of goes back to an earlier question you said about what is friendship. It's important to recognize that friendship is a reciprocal relationship. I mean, there's a give and a take to friendship. And in society, because of various societal pressures and norms, especially with women, we have this expectation that we have to give and give and give and expect nothing in return. And that it's really honorable and noble of you if you just martyr yourself and give and give and give and don't expect anything in return. And a good friend is one who gives and doesn't expect anything back. But actually, that is it's beautiful and it's very kind, it's very altruistic of you, but it actually sets you up to be really used and abused and taken for granted. And it's perfectly reasonable for you to expect something from your friend. You expect them to behave like a friend. You expect some reciprocation in the friendship. They need to be trusting, supportive, affectionate, respectful, and the basic courtesies of friend, which means in a conversation, we take turns. You talk about your life and I talk about my life. I'm there for your things and you're there for my things. I take your calls and listen to you till 1 a.m. about your crappy boyfriend, and you do the same for me. But if they're not doing that for you, if we have to kind of step back and realize at what point, I said before, we've got to give a little bit of leeway to people who are going through a state of crisis. Just as we would expect that if we were having a bad month or 6 months or, a bad period in our lives, that our friends would give us the benefit of the doubt and a little bit of leeway and be patient with us and sit through that. Yeah, for the last month, the conversations have been all about my divorce. That makes sense. That's kind of fair. But if it's like going on for years, then that's when we know is really this one-sided friendship. And is that person actually your friend if they're just sucking you dry and, as you say, turning you into their counselor, and also so frustrating because they don't even listen to your advice. They're not even actually enacting. They're not honoring and respecting those hours that you have dedicated to the conversation with them, which is emotional labor for you. And it's so exhausting. We get off the phone and we're so exhausted. They're actually not respecting anything you've said to them because they're not enacting any of those things. They just wanted to talk at you, not talk with you. So I do actually speak about this in the book. When you have a friend who's in a state of crisis, and where do we draw the line between being sensitive to their mental health and also respecting ourselves as people and what we deserve in a relationship? One thing I'll say, it's a really touchy, tricky subject because we don't want to hurt people who are already hurting. But we teach people how to treat other people by the way we let them treat us. So if you let your girlfriend treat you crappily and snap at you or talk at length about herself and never, ever include you in the conversation, and sort of just be rude to you or passive aggressive to you or overtly aggressive to you because she's going through a crisis, and you say, oh, it's okay that she told me to shut up. She's going through a breakup. It's okay. I'll give her a hall pass. What you're actually doing is you're teaching her that it's okay to treat people like that. So she's going to go away and do that to the next boyfriend or a work colleague or someone who she shouldn't be doing it to, or yourself even. So, we don't want to hurt them more, but think about the long game. Maybe you're causing more harm than good by teaching that person that what they're doing is okay, because it's not okay. You can't use people as a human punching bag. It's okay to somebody poorly. It's not okay to swear at someone. It's not okay to scream at someone. It's not okay to be physically aggressive to someone, even if you're going through a crisis. So I suppose that's the severe end of the spectrum. If this person is just draining you like an energy vampire and sucking all your energy dry, well, that's when you might need to sit down and have a real think about how much time and effort you're giving this person and what you're getting back. Because the question I'll ask you back is, are you really honoring yourself? Are you really valuing yourself if you give everything to this person and don't expect even basic courtesy of a reciprocal conversation back?
I love your what you just shared then, because energy vampires, I think, is something we have all struggled with or will or do. And I hear it from all different ages as well. And where you're right, it's good to have empathetic, like an ear to help and support, but there has to come a point in time where a person takes accountability and responsibility for creating their own happiness or starting over again or working on what's making them feel negative or angry or frustrated. Like, I feel that sometimes we have to really seek healing and help and professional help if need be. Some people might not even know, but they need to go and see a doctor or a psychologist to really get to the cracks of overcoming what's happened to them, because everybody deals with marriage breakups differently, even boyfriend breakups, job losses, business losses. And yeah, but I'm loving this book, as you know. And the other thing I want to ask you is, on your Instagram page, which is no-bullsh, you talk about this repeat toxic behavior and your brain.
Yeah.
Now, this is like, I really want to dive just into this little neuroscience part here, but can you share for our audience a little bit about what this repeat toxic behavior and your brain means?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you for asking. I love the science. This is where we realize, you know, what you're talking about before about mental health, people not appreciating that it's more than just emotions and that emotions aren't seen as legit in some way. What we really need to realize is the chronic impact to these emotions, right? So what the literature is telling us is that a strained friendship, now this is just friendship, this is not family, this is not work colleagues, this is friendship. They specifically looked at friendship. Over the long term, strained friendship has been shown to increase your risk of chronic health issues. It's been shown to have an impact on your cardiovascular health to the same level as obesity, smoking cigarettes, and it can actually shorten your lifespan to have strained friendships in your life. And one of the reasons why we think, you know, this having this detrimental effect on our physiological health is because when you're exposed to a threat in life, I'm sure you've heard of fight or flight. You've definitely probably heard of that.
Yes, I have.
So have the
But
listeners.
for our listeners who haven't, that's when
Sure.
Our central nervous system. Can you share just what it is for maybe someone who's listening who might not know?
Yeah, of course. So fight or flight is this response that your brain automatically goes into when there's a threat. So this is an amazing thing our brain does that keeps us safe and alive. So it happened when we were just lizards crawling around on the ground. We had our lower brains back then before we developed our big, juicy, amazing frontal lobes. But when we were just lizards crawling around on the ground, we needed to be protected from danger. So if we saw a tiger in the bushes, that this part of our brain, the cerebellum, would kick in and it would send a signal to your body to quickly run away as fast as you could or to fight the danger. So that's, they call it fight or flight. So it sends all of these hormones down into your body. So things like cortisone, which is a adrenaline, or epinephrine, as this neurotransmitter is called, down into your body to tighten up all your muscles to get you ready to fight something or run away from something. It would suppress your digestive system because you don't need to be digesting food right now. You need to get away from this tiger in the bushes. And so it suppresses all these other processes that we do, like sleep, eating, going to the toilet. All of those things get suppressed. Your muscles get really, really tight, and your body, your heart rate goes through the roof, and your breathing goes through the roof, and you have this intense you have this intense physiological reaction to get away from the danger. So if you think about any time you've ever burnt your hand, for example, if you've ever leant on a hot plate or something, or you've accidentally touched your hair straightener and it's been burning hot, you know how you immediately pull your hand away? You don't think about it, you just pull your hand off straight away. That's actually your brain kicking in to protect you. It waste any time with you thinking, oh, my hand's burning, I better pull it off because it might get a burn. Because by the time you think about it with your frontal lobes, your hand is burnt even more. So milliseconds are important when there's a danger. So it just kicks in and it makes you get away, fly away, or fight your way out of it. Now, the problem is in modern society, when we're exposed to a threat chronically. So when you are exposed to a friend who is behaving more like a threat, now when I say a threat, that doesn't just mean, a burglar's coming through my door, or there's a fire in my kitchen, or there's a tiger in the bushes. A threat can also be an emotional threat. So somebody who makes you feel really unsafe, somebody who makes you feel undermined, somebody who makes you feel pathetic, somebody who makes your heart sag, somebody who makes you feel on guard and like a little bit, on your tone, agitated and just a bit anxious, like you're never sure how they're going to respond to you. You're never sure what you're going to get and when the next insult is coming. So what that does is your poor old brain, this little thing called your vagus nerve in your brain, is trying to identify what are the threats and what are the friends. But when your friend is acting like a threat, then you get into this state of like chronic fight or flight mode, chronic burnout. So your brain is firing off all these signals to your body to tense up your muscles, to tense up your back, to suppress your digestion, because you're exposed to this threatening person and you're not even aware that your heart rate is going through the roof. Or maybe you're getting really bad tummy aches and getting lots of intolerances and sensitivities to your food, or you're getting the runs, or your sleep is really, really bad and you can't go to sleep. So, or you're getting tension headaches or back pain. That's because your body's being stress hormones chronically. They're not supposed to be in your system all the time.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Should we then feel into like our body and our like overall with our friends, should we be really like becoming then self-aware when we're with someone or talking to someone, or like how we are feeling? And then we should be really checking in with some of the things you've mentioned there. Is that sort of a good way also to check in when we're with our friends? Do we feel happy, excited, feel good, like comfortable, everything is good? Or do we have that friend where, what are we going to get today? Like you said, the heart rate's going up. I'm stressed. I feel anxious. I don't know why I'm anxious. And, so that's a good starting point as well. The feeling.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like some people, go with the feel, because I think, Yvette, we could be here all day if we went through every single behavior that a toxic friend might do. Like we'd be talking for hours. Like some of them are really obvious.
I know, I could talk for hours.
Yeah, some of them are very obvious and some slap you in the face like a wet fish. It's really obvious that they're being, a toxic friend. And some of them are really subtle and covert and you don't even realize it's happened until you get home at night and you're like feeling really down and you realize, oh, she kept telling me to shut up all night, or she made that horrible insult about what I was wearing. And it's like a kind of subtle, covert meanness that you don't even realize it's happened. So I say, when I talk about this at length,
in the book,
detail, but one easy, how to break up with friends. But one easy go-to sort of signpost is that, go with the feel. Like if you walk into that interaction, during the interaction and after you walk out of that interaction, if you're feeling worse than before you went into the interaction, that's a pretty good sign that something's not right with this friend. And I think it's important for me to stress to, all the women out there who often get told, you're a people pleaser, or you're being too sensitive, or you're just being crazy, that no, you're not being crazy. You're not a people pleaser. You're a kind and giving person who has been hurt. And let me just tell you, the part of your brain that experiences physical pain is the same part of your brain that experiences emotional pain. So your brain doesn't know the difference between someone kicking you in the shin and somebody being really, really rude to you. The part of your brain is the same that experiences those sensations of pain. Yet one thing, a physical injury, we give so much more weight than an emotional injury, even though they have the same impact on our brains. So that hurt that you're feeling is totally legitimate. It's totally legitimate. And you need to honor that feeling within yourself.
I love this. I love this, because I tell you what, we can all write a letter to that friend to break up with them, because in this book, you also teach people how to do the breakup. Mm-hmm. It's easy to have the friends. What so many people struggle with is, should I tell them? Should I ghost them? How am I going to go about this? Do I just block them? Do I distance myself? Do I not respond to them? Unfriend them on Facebook. They go through every scenario, and my advice is probably never the best advice, which is be straight down the line, and just explain why. And sometimes people really appreciate that, and then other times people will go crazy over that, and will not accept that there is someone who doesn't want to be friends with them. So there is but you go into more about this in the book, which I feel is the part that people will really need help with. Because I get when I go to some workshops and things and I speak to older people, they could be in their 60s, women, and they have all of these people send them a Facebook friends, and then they let everybody into their personal life. Now, some of them live in really small communities. These friends could be not really friends. They live a couple of doors down, and then they always complain about, I invited them into my private world, into my Facebook world, and now they know everything going on in my life, and now they're telling everyone. And my thing is, well, if they're not a friend, why have you got them on your Facebook page? I have to be nice. What happens if I unfriend them? They'll get upset. And so when Facebook came out, there was this big thing about people having so many friends. Do you remember that? And when I've got 700 friends. I'm like, what? 700 friends? What do you mean? Do you feel that with social media, there's been this big thing, you need to get on with everyone, you need to love everyone, you're a woman, you need to be friends with everyone, you need to love everyone, you need to accept everyone. And I'm thinking, well, not necessarily. If your Facebook page is your private page, why would people want strangers coming into their life? I still don't get it. I understand people are wanting to accept strangers or people they just said hello to, or a neighbor down the road. But what are your thoughts about someone who doesn't want a person on their Facebook page because they take what they have just said, they bitch about it to someone else, or they might make a really nasty comment, which is happening a lot in Facebook at the moment, where someone might have an opinion on a particular social issue, and then what's happening is someone else will come back with a comment, and then amongst people they're gossiping about, oh, did you see such and such post? I actually deleted Facebook. So the good news was I completely deleted Facebook. It was at the time when there was protests. There was so much going on in the world that Facebook had just come a platform of someone has an opinion. Great. Good for you. That's amazing. You are freedom of speech. But then people would come in, oh, I disagree. Oh my God. And they're going off. I deleted Facebook for the fact that, and someone's like, what do you mean you deleted Facebook? You're a blogger. How can you delete Facebook? I'm like, well, I deleted it because people obviously are all chiming in and no one understands freedom of speech. Because if you have a page and then you have a comment, fine, that's your opinion and good for you. I might disagree, but I'm not going to go up against you and attack you or try and prove you're wrong. So is it okay for our listeners to pretty much just go through Facebook and go, you know what, I know you, you're amazing, I want you in my life, tick. You know what, you really upset me for whatever reason. I don't trust you. I don't feel comfortable you knowing my private life, and I'm deleting. I work with you. I don't really want you to know my life because you're my boss.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I always go,
I think you've made a really great, yeah.
This is like, no, because Hannah, this is the thing. Like, I've worked in a place before where the supervisor wants to be friends with her colleagues because she wants to know what everyone's doing in their private life. And to the point where I was like, oh, there's no way I'm having my supervisor, like my work's my work, my supervisor.
Yeah.
And this was when Facebook first came out, but the young girls are like, no, I accepted the supervisor's friends
because felt like they had to.
What if I didn't? And then the hilarious thing was when these girls then went out and partied and then rang up that they were sick.
Oh,
they
no.
come into work at hilarious at Myers at the cosmetics counter. And the supervisor's like, I knew you girls were out. And they're like, how did you know?
Geez.
Because you posted it on your Facebook page and I'm friends with you. So, Hannah, we are living in online times. Is it okay if we take accountability for who we want online in our private online space? We can take that ownership, can't we? Can we empower our audience here to take the control of who you have online in your online world versus, like, is that acceptable thing to do?
Yvette, you've brought up so many interesting points just then. Like, how fast has technology moved in the last 10, 15 years? We've actually had to come up with new words for the social phenomena that we're experiencing as a consequence of Facebook, Instagram, and all of these new social media stuff. Like 20 years ago, did we have terms like ghosting or Insta or no-shows or things called social loafing, where you assume that no one will notice if you don't respond to the invite because there's so many people going, they just won't notice it? Or this thing called diffusion of responsibility and anonymity, where we feel like we can say whatever we want online because it's not real. And we're not hurting anybody if we just make these horrible comments online to people, or, that we can stalk through somebody else's personal information and then later use it against them. There's all of this new social stuff going on that the researchers have had to make terminology for and make new words for. So, it's kind of like this new territory for science and for psychology to get into. And it's like we're the first people, like we're the first adults who are kind of living through
being
Facebook and long term having Instagram. Yeah, so it's sort of, I think this goes into, it kind of really well segues into sort of assertiveness and boundary setting. And there's a term I like to use, I talk about it in the book, and I've also, like, I made an app specifically for this, which is, you know, it's okay to have boundaries about what you feel comfortable with and what you don't feel comfortable with. And I think somewhere along the line, we've gotten really bad at just speaking the truth, which is, you know, that's not appropriate, or it wasn't okay that you wrote that comment on my Facebook page, or it wasn't okay that you posted that photo of me where you could see up my skirt, you know, which has actually happened to me, by the way. You know, where we actually, so we have these terrible all or nothing mentalities in society, where it's like, that's all or nothing mentality refer to, like, when you swing like a pen between thinking that if you say or do something, it's going to blow up and be this huge, awkward bomb of confrontation, and an argument will erupt, and it's going to be really huge and horrible for you. So you go, okay, I'm not going to do anything. So you swing to the other side, which is, I'm not going to say or do anything to this person because it's just not worth it. It's just not worth stirring up the trouble it's going to cause. But actually, there's a really nice middle ground in there somewhere that's getting lost along the way, which is that it is totally okay for you to just speak the truth to these people, which is, I don't feel comfortable having my boss on my Facebook. No, thank you. Or when you shared that personal piece of information about me to our neighbor, that upset me. Please don't do that again. You know, and it's not about being rude or malicious or getting a fight with them. Talking is just calmly saying the truth with integrity and with self-respect. Calmly saying the truth, which is, please don't speak to me that way. Please don't tell me to shut up. I've told you that I'm not adding you to my Facebook. Please don't ask me again. You know, like, it's just saying the truth. I don't feel comfortable having you on my Facebook. I keep that, you know, fairly private. So I'm not going to add you again. Please don't ask me. It's not about being rude or mean. Like, we sort of feel like if we say these things that it's going to result in this really awful explosion of awkwardness. But if you ever think back on a time when a friend or someone has ever said no to you, they said, no, I'm not going to do that because I'm not comfortable with it. You know, we're all human beings. Like, I can remember times where people have said, no, I don't want to do that. Or, you know, no, Hannah, you know, please don't cancel on me last minute, Hannah, because it meant that I'm more interested. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that I did that to you. You know, when people actually speak the truth, most people will turn around and go, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry I did that to you. I won't do it again. And if they keep doing it to you, or if they don't apologize, then you know that's not a person who you should be having in your life.
Yeah, I love these tips. I love these tips. And I have done that where I've told someone, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there. And then I'm like, last minute, oh, I'm too tired. I can't be there. And I've like, but you said you were going to be there. And I learned the hard way. Don't promise someone you're going to be there and you don't turn up. But I appreciated when the person actually told me how it made them feel. They were really calm. And I was like, oh my goodness. But had they gone away and stewed, I would have had no idea. And from that moment on, I realized how important it was when I say I'm going to go and to commit. I want to talk about your app because I really love, before we hit the record, I was talking about how much I love the Assert Yourself. And you have where you've got the assisted meditation and then the assertive decision making. But for our listeners, can you tell them a little bit more about the app? Like, how can we apply this app to our life, apart from obviously downloading it from the App Store? But then what? Then what? Like, what's the concept behind the app, and how can we use the app in our life?
Yeah, thank you. Well, look, I created Assert Yourself because, you know, I just found within myself, and I've got a lot of sisters as well, that we just weren't listening to our intuition. We weren't listening to our gut instinct about what I want. What do I need? right me and best decision for me and my family. And so often, you know, we were talking about how we'd let people kind of push us into doing things we didn't want to do, and later go, I knew I didn't want to do that. Why did I let that happen to me? Or I know that person, I know my mother-in-law is speaking to me rudely. Why do I keep letting her do this to me? Why can't I just say, don't speak to me like that? And I think it kind of goes back to the neuroscience stuff, if I can go back to the science again. But what happens is, you know, your body has a gut instinct. You know this feeling in your heart. Some people call it intuition. Some people call it gut instinct. I like to call it, you know, your heart's whisper. So when your heart, what you actually want, what's right for you, what is right for you and in the best interest of you, is something that kind of whispers really quietly from deep down inside you. You know, it's like a little inkling that you know, oh, this is not quite right for me, and I'm not quite comfortable here. But then the stress of pressure from other people, from anxiety, from depression or sadness, those things scream in our heads really loudly, and it makes it very difficult to hear that little whisper deep down inside us. So when you're, you know, going through the throes of somebody pressuring you into doing something you don't want to do, whether that's signing up to be, I don't know, like the person who brings all the cakes to the bake sale, or driving somebody to the airport, or helping someone move house, when you know you actually don't have the time to do it, or the energy to do it, or the money to do it, and you walk away from the interaction going, why did I say yes to that? Oh my God, I can't do this. It's to slow you. The app is designed to use in the moment. It's designed to slow you down. It's like, one of them is a 3-minute meditation where you can excuse yourself and go to the bathroom and go and sit in a cubicle and just give yourself the space to listen to your intuition, to push aside the screams of pressure from other people to do things that you don't actually want to do, and to hear that little whisper, that little gut instinct actually tell you what's right for you. Because I mean, I'm a strong believer in this. Like, I'm all about intuition, and I'm all about, ultimately, your heart knows. It always knows what's best for you. Deep down, you know what's best for you. And it's all about taking the time to actually hear it. And if we've spent our lives giving and giving and giving to other people, and maybe being in environments where we had to push aside what we wanted and what was right for us because we had to put other people's needs ahead of us, then we lose touch with our intuition. We lose the ability to hear our own intuition. It gets suppressed because that fight or flight response, maybe you've been around a threat. Maybe you've lived with somebody who's been quite threatening, emotionally threatening to you, and you've had to suppress those things of what you want and what you need, because in the moment, that's what kept you safe. You had to do stuff that you didn't want to do because that's what kept you safe. So now we need to relearn, how do I hear what I actually want and what's right for me? And then how do I say that out loud to this person? How do I put into words, no, I am not doing that. No, the answer is no. How do we undo things we've already committed to? How do we deal with it in the moment? How do we deal with it when it's already happened in the past? So this app is all about going back and undoing things that we've committed to, or helping you make a decision in the moment, and training ability to hear that intuition deep down again.
I love this. Listening to your intuition. I feel that this can help young teenager girls as well, because I struggled in my teens trying to fit in. And for some reason, all the bad kids will take you in. All the wayward kids will always bring you in with open arms. Wayward kids, come on here. Wayward kids will, if you feel like you don't fit in, wayward kids will take you in. And like,
Yes.
I feel that I talk to so many young teenagers and they're like, oh, we're at this party and now they got MDA. And I'm like, what? And they're rattling off all these drug names. And I'm like, shit, when I grew up, it was marijuana and alcohol. What the hell is going on? I'm like, you kids need to learn about the brain. You only get one brain. And they're like, it's party. And I'm like, there's no party in this. But I feel like if young girls or guys can learn how to be strong, like if I could go back, I'm in my 40s now, but if I looked back at one of the areas I struggled with in my teens and even in my 20s was, and I still even come up with this even early 40s, where I'm one that wants to fit in with everyone. I want to be liked by everyone. It's human nature. I want people to like me. I want to fit in. And I want to be accepted by everyone. And accepting, like, if that isn't a good place to be, because you've got to learn, like, you've got to, like, be able to be confident and be able to say no to things that can harm you, no to things that could kill you. No to things that could totally screw your life up. And I feel like this app could really help all ages, but for young girls or guys or anyone who struggles with peer pressure or the whole trying to fit in, trying to be cool, like if I could turn back time, I'd like, I'm not cool. I'm a nerd. I'm going to sign up. Like, be proud if you want to be a nerd and just stand your ground. And, like, that's why now when you said you're a neuroscientist and you're a bit of a nerd, and it's like, that's good. This is good. But see, it's easier when you get older and you learn these more skills. But I feel like young girls are struggling with friendships, which aren't the best. At times, sometimes they're very bitchy friendships. They're a bit mean. The younger generation, sadly, at times have been online. So the whole, that sucks, that's shit. Like, they've been brought up judging, like, yes, I like you. No, I don't. Yes, tick, like. Yes, tick, like. So judging. So I feel that your app's going to be able to help there. So now, Hannah, we could talk forever on this topic. And I just feel like we're going to have to come back and have another Spirit Girl podcast show. So for all of our listeners tuning in, I really hope you loved listening to this, as we would call it, no BS. Because this is your Instagram page, which I love. I love. It's literally, you can follow Dr. Hannah Korrel on Instagram at no-bullsh. So no-bull, BULL, PSYCH. And also we can get your book on Amazon.com, which is
Book Depository,
How to Break
Big W.
Yes. It's everywhere. It's Big W if you're in Australia. Go there and get it.
It's on Audible. It's on Audible now as well.
Oh my God, it's on Audible. That is
on
amazing.
Audible. It's exciting. It's very exciting.
That is so exciting, because that means you can go for your walk, which I love.
Yeah.
Listen, download it. Like, for people who don't like to read, that is incredible. Audible. And also, what is your website we can send everyone to? But I will leave it in the link.
www.hannahkorrel.com.
Beautiful. I'll leave that in the link. And Dr. Hannah Korrel, like, I love talking to you today about this topic. I feel that people should just reach out to me if they have any more questions. But I feel that we touched on so many areas. I love how you explained the brain and toxic friends and the effect on your health. That was a very big eye-opener for me even. But this book is incredible. It's just amazing. Chapter 7 as an example, investing in good friends, not bad friends. Like there is so much. Chapter 6, why do we put up with this crap? Like it's so frank and it's so incredible. And I think you're right. We lost the art of just saying it how it is. Like I grew up in times when you were straight down the line, like no BS, no bullshit. You just said how you felt, but in a respectful way. I was brought up, if you didn't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, but also voicing your opinion. But I love chapter 1, the concept of a bad friendship. There is so much. Chapter 4, jealousy and envy. Hello, Instagrammers. If you've got Instagram and you are a supermodel and your friend is a supermodel, super duper model, then this chapter here is for everyone. If you're a girl, aka and you don't have a boyfriend, but your friend has the hottest boyfriend and you've just heard they're having a family, and you're a little bit jealous and you're envious, get this book. Get the book. So, Hannah, we will say goodbye.
Or if your friend is jealous of you. Yes. Thanks for having me.
So much. So thank you, Hannah. We'll say goodbye to Dr. Hannah Korrel. And you can grab a copy of How to Break Up with Friends. You can follow her at no-bullsh. And you can also now, after the Spirit Girl Talk Show podcast, subscribe, leave a rating and review, and tell someone you love to. Until next time, I really hope this helps you to feel good from within, and you can take some of these ideas. You're inspired to read this book, and also check out the app, Assert Yourself also. And I really hope this helps you in your day-to-day life. Love you all to bits. See you on the next podcast show. Bye.
Have I lost you?